Hi guys, welcome back, and let's talk refereeing in rugby, in international rugby especially. Now, I don't normally talk about referees in match reports because I like to focus on what the team can actually control, but I think now's a good time to do it, so hold on to your whistle, let's get stuck into it. And of course, I'm going to be putting in a lot of my own opinion, so don't get upset if it differs to yours, but I'd love to know what your opinion is in the comments below because there's many different ways to view this. Now, referees, as we know, can have a huge impact on games, especially with the new, more strict red card rules there. It's time to have a debate for sure. I'll try and structure it a bit, but probably it's just going to end up into a series of rambling points. But anyway, there we go. Let's just mention the amateur level because, my video is about the international level, but it's worth commenting at refereeing at amateur level as well because I think it's the hardest level to referee at. It's just because often there's one official, often an inexperienced official, one that's trying to learn their craft potentially, and there's just one person to try and spot all these things that can go on. And especially at amateur level, refs are in short supply. Do we, tolerate a little bit of poor reffing because we know we need them? That's definitely a debate. We need referees. We want them to be better, but we don't want to completely put them off, or you can't play games, of course. And it is different if you think there's deliberate bias or something a bit untoward like that. But generally, the complaint is it's just poor refereeing at amateur level, but we need them as well. So we've got to strike that balance, I think. However, if I was to offer up a bit of advice to amateur referees, some big no-nos I've seen in my time is often when the referee creates a bit of an adversarial atmosphere between the players and the ref. Don't get into an argument with the players, that's not a good one, or they want to lecture the players, or they want to explain their decisions in real detail to show the players they're right. You don't need to do it in that much detail, maybe a few words here or there, but just get on and do your job is the best thing to do it. Another little tip I think can really help amateur referees is watch out for weak arm signals and weak whistles. Players want to know what's going on straight away. Get your arm out for that penalty or the free kick. Make it super clear what is going on, and you can use your whistle with that as well. Strong whistle for a penalty, slightly less whistle for a scrum, for example, for a knock-on. So use your whistle, use your arm signals first, make it super clear, and if you want to say something afterwards, fine, but do that first. I've seen referees blow a weak whistle, players stand around not knowing what's going on. The referee explains something and then in the end actually gives the signal. It's a bit bizarre when you see that one. But anyway, get the order right. See, whistle, signal, do that first. Anyway, let's get into the elite level. First thing I want to talk about is how much chat is too much or a good amount of chat for a referee. I've seen all the comments saying they shouldn't say anything to it's good for them to explain what's going on so the game flows. What's your opinion? Do you go for none? Now, I have seen that where there's no warning. You just give, the penalty if you see it. You play what you see. The problem I see with that is it can create a bit of a surprise atmosphere, a bit of an adversarial atmosphere again, where players, a little bit put out by decisions that are out of the blue, even if they are absolutely correct. So that's something to bear in mind. I think some chat is actually quite useful because, these are humans playing the game, of course, not robots. Do you give small warnings for offsides? Go back there, you might be offside. Do you say when the ball's out? Do you say stop playing the ball, hands off? Those sorts of things. I think a little bit of that can definitely help, but when you're actually helping the players play the game, when the players they know what they're doing, especially at the elite level, and they don't need to be told little things like release, hands off, those sorts of things. Now, of course, minor misdemeanours, maybe referees do need to let off minor misdemeanours to let the game flow. For example, if a player's offside and the ref says stop and they do stop, do you then play on or you just ping them for the offside? That's a tricky one because if you picked up everything in the game of as complex as rugby union, maybe you just wouldn't get enough of a game full stop. So let me know where you think the line is there. The other extreme is, of course, talking a team or both teams through the whole game. This is a ruck, hands off, go back there, be careful of that, watch out for that. And you can get too far into actually doing that, thank you, well done, good contest, all that sort of thing. It's nice in moderation, but maybe if you get into a full talking through a team through a game, then really you're just telling them how to play the game and it's unnecessary. I don't know. Let me know how much chat a referee needs. Second point I'd love to know your opinions on is the whole idea of interpretation, law interpretation. This is a big one. Unfortunately, some laws are never going to be black and white. As much as we'd like to think they are, they're not. A player must immediately release the tackle player on the floor, but what's immediate? How long? Half a second, 1 second, 2 seconds. So even when there's words like immediate, how long is that? Immediately place the ball. How long do you have to do that? And where it isn't black and white, you need consistency, but that's really, really hard, especially when you're collaborating with refs from different countries, from different leagues. I know they try and do it as much as possible, but it is really hard. But consistency, where it's not black and white, yeah, that's super important. Let me know what drives you up the wall with inconsistent refereeing at international level. But let's talk about some of the laws that are black and white and just aren't called at all, which I know wind some of you guys up a lot as well as me. Let's talk about the scrum. Ball in straight at the scrum. You don't have to put it in dead middle now, but you still have to put it in straight, and it's just got back to as worse as it's ever been, to be honest. No, sometimes they're just feeding the ball to the number 8's feet. Now, why can't that be refereed? That's a weird one, because technically it's easy. We know what straight is, we know what perpendicular is, and refs just need to call it if it isn't, but they're not. A few other examples. Hookers' feet are meant to be behind the touchline when they throw in, and often they're standing on the line, or they're just their heels on the line and they're actually in the field of play. That's a weird one. Should be an easy black and white one to referee. Or players behind the kicker at kickoff, and most of the time they aren't. So why don't referees call this up? Now, I think this links in to a bit of the psychology that I've been talking about in some of my previous psychology videos. It's the idea of refs not really wanting to stand out, if you like. As soon as some refs don't start picking it up and it becomes the norm not to pick it up, do you want to be the odd one out? Also, if players are used to refs not picking it up and then all of a sudden you do pick it up when obviously you should pick it up, that again creates that bad feeling between players and referees, and it's a natural reaction not to want to do that. So once something's got to an extreme like ball not straight in at the scrum, then refs just don't really want to rock the boat when they think they're the only ones who are going to do it. So it's an interesting one. It should be easy to enforce black and white laws, but it's not. Now let's talk about a bit of a tricky one. This idea that refs bring in their own emotional or cultural influence into a game, especially at international level. We have refs from lots of different countries, cultures and backgrounds. Now, refs are human. You do want personality to come through for sure, but maybe it can go too far. I know in the past, French referees, for example, have been criticised for being maybe a little bit too unpredictable, reffing a bit too much on feeling, which may be a cultural thing. The big example that blew up on the internet after the Lions tour was, of course, when a Romain Poite gave initially Ken Owens offside for catching the ball in front of a player on his own team who just played the ball, and by the letter of the law, he was offside. He did catch the ball. It didn't kind of just stick in his shirt or something like that. He was offside. I think it's fair to say it was a penalty, although it came to him as a bit of a surprise, for example, and as soon as he caught the ball, he then did try and drop the ball, but he did catch it. It was kind of a reaction, but it was a kind of deliberate reaction, if that's possible. So why did Romain Poite turn it into an accidental offside? The deal, as he said on the day there. And of course, Kieran Reid was absolutely furious. He knew it was a penalty, and that you could hear the words on the ref mic saying, but Romain, that's not the law, that's not how it is. And it was too late. He had changed the decision. Why? Well, I think the feeling, the culture there was he wanted the game to be decided through rugby. Now, this is just my opinion, of course. I don't know exactly why he did this. But, he wanted the game to be decided through rugby rather than kind of a tight decision. And maybe he thought that was fairer, even though strictly maybe it wasn't the right call. So that was so tough on New Zealand there, and a little bit fortunate for the Lions. But that's a great example of where that kind of emotional feeling can come into refereeing. Should it? Should it not? Should it be just completely cold? I don't know. It's a very tricky one. Let me know what you think. And I don't want to go on about too many things, but the last thing is TMO, the television match official. How much should they get involved? Sure, we do get more big decisions correct these days. I think that is fair to say. But is it making referees make less decisions, or they're taking less responsibility themselves? How much should the TMO be able to pick up? How far back in play should they be able to pick it up? It's a real hot topic. Let me know what you think, if they should be involved more or less. And certainly one of the most annoying TMO things for me is when the TMO knows the ref's got it wrong, because they can see all the pictures, so it can be easier for them. And rather than saying, no, sorry, I'm pretty sure that's wrong and this is why, they kind of tread on eggshells because they don't want to really expose the referee to get something wrong. And they say, maybe you should have a look at that again. Let me play a different angle. Whereas really they just need to say it how it is. So that's just one thing for me. Anyway, guys, comments on TMOs. So my closing thoughts, I'm fairly lenient to referees because I know it's such a hard job, and small errors I kind of let go because there are certain things you just can't, get right 100% of the time. It's very hard. But I think they are getting more decisions right than they were, and it's easy, I think, for us to kind of think, oh, things are really, really bad now. They were better back in the day. But if you go and watch some of these older matches, sometimes it is just like the Wild West out there, and there were so many things going on that probably should be picked up in the law. So I think generally things are getting better. However, I think things could definitely improve even more. Rugby hasn't been professional for very long, especially refereeing, so I think we can definitely get a lot better. But I think, the huge majority of refs and match officials are trying to do their best. But certainly it's worth discussing these things as to how they can improve. Anyway, guys, so many things to talk about there. Love to know your opinions on refereeing and the state it's in right now and where it should go. Pop the comments below, and I'll catch you next time.